This is the car that's supposed to bring the fun back to the Toyota brand, the GT86. It's being marketed as a reincarnation of the AE86 from the 1980s, which is a big statement to make because not only was it one of the best Japanese cars of its time, it's still a popular car today, especially among tuners and drifters. So if it really is a reincarnation, it has to be three things: relatively light, affordable, and most importantly, fun to drive.
Okay, so clutch in, push the button, and try to drive like a civilized human being. So the first thing you need to know about this car is its price. The base price for this car is 41,900 francs. Include the options that this press car has, and you're looking at a little over 46,000 francs. It might sound a lot at first, but remember, this is Switzerland. Everything costs a lot here. Despite this car being a Toyota, it's actually built by Subaru. Toyota designed the car, but they worked together with Subaru to produce it. It has a Subaru engine, but it has a Toyota fuel injection system. Other Subaru bits include little things like this gear lever, but most of the things inside, the interior components, are made by Toyota. It has a high revving engine. It revs to about 7,500 RPM. It's a 2-liter naturally aspirated flat 4. It produces 200 horsepower and about 205 Nm of torque. It accelerates from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.6 seconds and can reach a top speed of 226 kilometers an hour. Speaking of speed, let's get a little bit of acceleration here. The engine definitely revs high. But in terms of sound, though, it doesn't have that aggressive Impreza STI growl, you know, that's typical of flat 4 engines. In fact, when it's high in the rev range, it sounds just like any other 4-cylinder engine, which is a bit of a shame, but you can fix that. Just get yourself a couple of UEL headers, that's unequal length headers, and the classic Subaru growl will be back. Actually, the time it sounds most like a boxer engine, surprisingly, is at low revs. Between 2,000 and 4,000 RPM, you're getting that boxer sound, but when you rev it high, it sounds just like a normal 4-cylinder. In terms of handling, let's start with the steering. The steering is nicely weighted and it's accurate. And there's not much, if any, body roll when you go through the corners, even at brisk pace. And in terms of power, there's adequate. It's 200 horsepower, but you know, the only time you'll feel like you're lacking power is if you're used to high-powered machines like Nissan GTRs or Corvettes or what have you. But it's a fun car to drive, you know, like you feel involved in the whole driving experience.
Driving through some twisted roads was fun. And although you have low grip tires, there's still some decent traction when coming out of corners. You're sat real low down to the ground as well, making many countrymen look like 18-wheelers by comparison. The gear shift action has a nice mechanical feel to it, clunking nicely into place. And while I'm no Keiichi Tsuchiya, hailing to downshifting in this car is easy. At this point, I wish I could tell you that I was able to easily drift the GT86, but I can't. I got all sensible.
Sorry guys, there's gonna be no drifting in this video. when I get 1 million views on YouTube, I want it to be because I made a cool car video, not because I went, watch this, and then ended up crashing a press car.
So we've seen that the GT86 does a good job at being a fun sports car, but how is it at being an everyday sort of car? For that, I got on the highway and headed to Geneva to find out.
There's a little bit of road noise in the highway, but otherwise you can easily do thousands of kilometers in this car. The seats are comfortable and supportive, and because the gear ratios are quite short, there's always a bit of acceleration. You rarely have to change down a gear to overtake. The car is well equipped too. I've got keyless entry and push button ignition, got dual zone climate control, I have USB and auxiliary connectivity, got satellite navigation, I have heated seats, leather and Alcantara. I really like these Alcantara inserts. What else do I have? Yeah, I got Bluetooth, and the sound system's not bad either. It does have a stiff ride though, but you can still use it every day. Maybe your grandfather might not like it, but at the same time you don't have to be a masochist to endure this car. And I was expecting the trunk to be tiny, but you can actually put a decent sized suitcase in there.
So, as it turns out, the GT86 seems to be a worthy successor to the AE86, but there are things that might bother you a little.
Things I don't like about this car? Well, because the engine is high revving, I was expecting the noise to be a bit more aggressive. You know, kind of like a Honda VTEC when it goes past 4,000 RPM. But the sound is a little bit disappointing. Another thing, when the car is cold, when you first start it up, this gear shift can be a bit notchy. And it just does not want to play ball for the first 5 to 10 minutes of driving. Another thing is the C-pillar. It's obstructive. It obstructs your view, and sometimes reversing is made really difficult. But other than those little niggles, it's a good car.